This is what's great about sports. This is what the greatest thing about sports is. You play to win the game. Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it. That's the great thing about sports. You play to win. And I don't care if you don't have any wins. You go play to win. When you start telling me it doesn't matter, then retire. Get out. Because it matters.
Jets fans, welcome to a new session of Jets Talk here on Knicks Bros TV. It's been a hectic free agency. There's a lot going on. A lot of players making, a lot of abnormal moves where it's just, to me, it's like it doesn't make sense, but I know they're the ones on the inside that kind of know what's going on. So, it's amazing how things work in New York. I'm sitting there, I'm listening to the Lupka show this morning, and some of these Jets fans, overall New York fans, just know how to get on my nerves. There's a segment with Lupka going around asking people whether we should sign Revis or shouldn't. That's not my problem. I've told you guys before, I'm a huge Revis guy. He was one of my favorite players. I don't mind if we sign him. Do I feel like signing him at the right price? That's the factor. If we're going to sign him for 17, 18, whatever the case might be, it's got to be worth it. If we can go out there and grab multiple players, I'd rather do that. I mean, Cromartie's still on the market, and, he made $4 million last year, and that's something we could definitely match up for sure. Now, there's been a lot of comparisons. Which cornerback would you rather have? Would you rather have Cromartie? Would you have Revis? I don't think there's any comparison as far as talent is concerned. I mean, Revis is a much better corner. I think we need to rewind the tape a little bit. Cromartie's last year, he really struggled. He got beat deep a lot. But he was part of a struggling team. So, within the Revis story, I got Jets fans, New York fans overall coming about and saying, what's the point of signing Revis if we don't have a quarterback? That makes no sense to me because good teams take 1 or 2 years to rebuild themselves. So if you're vacant in one spot with a position, you're not going to be able to turn it around in 1 year. If you need defensive backs, okay, let's go out there. We got the cap space. Let's go and get this player and that player and this player. So the idea of some of those fans calling in is saying basically, you know what, let's not even worry about it. We don't have a quarterback, so let's not do anything. Let's just leave the team it is. And those are the same people, week 8, week 9, when the team is 3-8, come out and say, oh my gosh, the Jets suck. They didn't do anything. They didn't do nothing. They didn't do anything. So you were the one last year saying, you know what, let's not do anything on our defensive side because we don't have a quarterback. Now, again, I'm not coming out and saying Revis, is our guy, he needs to be signed, and we need to go ahead and get him right away. We're not going to be able to live without him. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying Revis at a decent price. If we have to go on a little bit of bidding, go ahead and do it. The New England Patriots are going to force us into that. But I'm not going to go into a bidding war for Revis. It doesn't make any sense for us to go out there and spend so much of our money on just Revis. There are four teams out there that are interested. And all these 4 teams have some sort of connection with Revis. The first team that's interested is obviously the New York Jets, the team that made his Hall of Fame career happen. It's the team that he worked his butt off and became a Hall of Fame cornerback. I don't know if I said quarterback, I apologize. Cornerback. Second is the New England Patriots, the team that got him a ring. Where he can go back and win multiple rings if he wanted to because, it's the Patriots. Like it or not, they've been a decent team, more than a decent team. Obviously just won the Super Bowl. So third is the Buffalo Bills, where, he has his favorite coach of all time, and Rex Ryan's a huge fan of his. And the fourth team is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers, where he's originally from Pittsburgh. So these are the 4 teams that are into it. Again, I'm not going to get into a bidding war. I don't think it's the right thing to do. And I don't think Mike McKagan is going to do that. But, it's just a little bit of push for him. I think that's something achievable. Bring in Revis. He can be a good instructor to the corners that do come in, maybe younger guys. And he's going to be able to be a good piece 2 to 3 years from now. I think Revis, he's got probably 2, 3 more solid years in him. you know, once we get a quarterback maybe next year or be able to build on a quarterback, he can be a solid piece on our defensive side. So that's my take on Revis. Don't go all out, but try to put your foot down a little bit and see if you can get him. But again, I'm not going to sit here and say we need him. We can work with other guys. Again, you can bring in Cromartie for cheap. So that's really my take on it. But I just don't like the fact that all the New York fans are basically saying is, we don't have a quarterback, so let's not do anything. Do you honestly think Todd Bowles is going to jeopardize his entire career to be your Jets coach and come into next year saying, oh, we're just going to go in a rebuilding stage. I'm not going to do anything in 1 year. No way. Any professional that's within this organization or any professional that's within this entire league has to have some sort of pride to win. You're going to do your best to fill up some sort of holes, whether if it's not your main hole that you want to fill up, which is the quarterback position. You're still going to try to do your best because those pieces are going to be a foundation for next year when you're able to find that quarterback to be able to go further and further within the season. So the fact that people are coming out and saying, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that because a quarterback position is garbage, then you know what, I'm sorry. You're going to be one of those fans that's going to be complaining the entire year next year. So I really had to get. Now, as far as the quarterbacks are concerned, Hoyer, the quarterback that I wanted on our team, recently just signed with the Houston Texans. It doesn't make any sense to me because I think Mallett is a much more competition for Hoyer, as if Hoyer would have came into New York and Geno Smith was his competition. So, if Hoyer really wanted to start, I think this was the place to do it. I don't think Geno Smith is much of a competition. Now, whether if he made that decision because he didn't want to be in the spotlight, New York media, that's definitely understandable. But I think, again, I'm not going to say Hoyer was going to save our season, going to save our franchise. There's a reason why these quarterbacks are free agents. There's a reason why they're backup quarterbacks. I think he would have been a solid piece to our team because you got to think about it. Brian Hoyer actually never got a true test. I mean, he's played for the Patriots where he backed up, Tom Brady. He played for the Steelers where he backed up Ben Roethlisberger. He had 1 year in Cleveland, but Cleveland is a struggling team has been trying to rebuild themselves for years. And that's not a true test. And right away when you do that, you bring in Johnny Manziel when there's more pressure on him. So that's exactly how I feel with the whole Brian Hoyer situation. Now there's been links with Fitzpatrick. There's rumors going around with the Saints just made a trade for, I forgot that player's name. I'm going to try to look it up. Their tight end. I forgot his name, but they traded him to Seattle Seahawks, and they're talking about maybe Drew Brees being on a trading block, and they're just trying to go after him and try to acquire him. Now, I don't want to give up my draft picks, but that's something also we could consider. So that's really that. But for us to sit here and say, by bringing in a quarterback, we're going to be a playoff caliber team. You kidding me? Playoffs?
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs?
No way. The best I could see us going next year is 7-9, 8-8. That's the best. Unless, we really, really turn it around somehow, some way. But again, good teams build through the draft and free agency, and you got to be patient. You can't just, expect the team to turn itself around and for you to be 11-5 and 12-4 after the ridiculous season we had. Corners are not the only position that we need. I mean, we need safeties. Pryor's not pulling his weight. We definitely need a safety there. Our running game isn't exactly where it needs to be either. So we did manage to sign Powell. I know he had some interest with the Buffalo Bills. He's probably going to be our second string running back if we don't acquire anyone else. But really, that's kind of my take. Percy Harvin got released today. That frees up $10.5 million in our cap space. The bad thing is he might sign with the New England Patriots. There's been a link with the AFC East and the players and the coaches. They tend to always rotate around. Whether it was Curtis Martin coming from the Patriots to New York Jets, or Rex Ryan going to the Buffalo Bills, yada yada yada. So. Also we managed to sign Buster Skrine from the Cleveland Browns. He had 4 interceptions last year. I'm not too familiar with him. I know he's a Georgia kid. He went to Tennessee for school, but that's a good move that we're doing. We're trying to get some defensive backs, but I really got to look into him a little bit further. Guys, leave me your comments. What should the Jets do? I mean, is Revis really worth it? And at what price is he worth it? Can Cromartie provide the same thing? These are definitely questions that we have, and it's been a hectic free agency market. I don't think I've seen a free agency like this wild in a while. So definitely leave me your comments. The last 2 videos we've been getting a lot of conversations going, so I want to thank those individuals. Please subscribe, share these videos. I'm going to definitely be coming up with more videos in the future. So click that subscribe button, and we'll definitely keep you guys posted. Have a good